As we continue these conversations, about other groups, especially Asian Americans, this one, woman who's Asian American is going to talk about, really what their position is in white supremacy and definitely in relation to us and with black people. Let's go ahead and roll that.
I think the quick answer is that Asian Americans are given white privilege, especially the Asian Americans who fit the model minority stereotype. The quid pro quo for receiving that privilege is upholding white supremacy culture, which means being anti-Black. I was talking with somebody last night who was pointing out that the Civil Rights Amendment was passed in 1964, but also in the 1960s, the United States opened the door to Asian immigration. So now you have an influx of racial minorities who knew nothing about the history of white violence against Black people, knew nothing about the Black civil rights movement. So they arrived with civil rights, not understanding how that came to be. And also, it effectively erased the United States' own anti-Asian history, because Asian Americans came in not necessarily knowing about the Chinese Exclusion Act or the internment of Japanese Americans in the United States during World War II. And I think that Asian Americans are used as a buffer between the Black community and the white community, because in the 1960s, there was almost a racial reckoning. The white power structure almost had to face accountability for the history of violence against Black people. But instead, Asian Americans were inserted and were pit against each other, so that we're always up against each other, and that basically white supremacy escapes accountability. And the example that I think of that sort of started the root of a lot of tension is Asian Americans were buying into the negative media stereotypes of Black people. And then in the events that led up to what became known as the LA riots, the LAPD kettled protests away from wealthy white neighborhoods and into Koreatown, and then they left. And we know how that played out. So again, the two communities being pitted against each other and away from the white power structure. And obviously the model minority myth is used to oppress the Black community. And there's so much here. I will be getting more into it, but I feel like that's the quickest answer that I can give that gets a little bit into the history. And I'm really curious to know what the Black community and Asian Americans feel about this. But please be patient with me. Thank you.
Now, you hear her clearly say that, they're used as a buffer group between the white supremacists and Black Americans. She clearly said that. She clearly said that to basically assimilate into America, you must assimilate into anti-Blackness if you want to be in good with the white supremacists. Because white supremacist culture is anti-Blackness. That's what it's built on. If you remove anti-Blackness away from their culture, they have no culture. You understand? What a second demented culture to build is that you got to build it off of the hatred of one group of people. And then when you have Asian Americans, they play that game with them too, like the darker Asians, like your Filipinos and Cambodians, etc. They'll treat the lighter skinned ones like the Japanese and the Koreans and all them. They'll treat them better than they'll treat the darker skinned Asians. Or they'll allow more of the lighter skinned Asians to come than the darker skinned Asians. It's a big game that they play. But even though you say they may not known, I'm sorry, I don't want to hear no I didn't know, because we have the internet now. We have Google. You can research. You can find out certain things. There's no excuse anymore that we don't know anything. But what I try to tell Black people is this: all these other groups is incentivized to have anti-Black racism toward us. They're incentivized to do so by the white supremacists. This is why more and more Black people every day are saying, okay, I get why now, when they try to say, oh, well, no, it's not. We have people of color that is used to try to not deal with anti-black racism and white supremacy. You understand? And we have seen these other groups. We talking about as a collective, not individual people, but as a collective. This woman is an individual Asian person, so I'm not putting her in that issue. But we have seen as a collective of people, these other quote unquote people of color groups have teamed up with white supremacy against us. This is why we have to understand when Dr. John Henry Clark said we have no friends, we have no collective friends. Sure, we have some individual friends in all groups, individuals, not collective. We have no collective friend nowhere. And black people are starting to realize that more and more every day, and the other groups now are starting to get offended when black people are pulling back, because we have seen how you have sided with white supremacy. Individuals that stand with us will definitely be your friend. Individuals, but just blind groups, no, we won't do it, because we know that a lot of you have teamed up with white supremacy against us. You have practiced anti-black racism against us, and when we see you, that's why we have pulled back, and now we're saying we got to fix our issue and problems and do for ourselves, connect with our brothers and sisters throughout the world, and see how we can connect there. That's what I'm on. I'm on that completely, because I've learned real quick that collectively, all these other groups, no, you're not our friend like that. Once again, I'm going to repeat, individuals can be individuals, and respect those individuals and befriend those individuals. But collective groups, just blind support, no, we have no friends.